The Mafia Boss collapsed at dinner, slipping into a coma that doctors said was permanent. His wife cried at his bedside, whispering how much she loved him. What she didn't know, he heard every word, including the one she said when she thought no one was listening. The wine glass shattered before Victor Moretti hit the floor. One moment, he was cutting into a steak, listening to Isabella laugh at something Marco had said. The next, his vision blurred, his chest seized, and the world tilted sideways. The crystal glass slipped from his fingers, exploding against the marble floor of Costello's, the private dining room where Victor conducted business that couldn't be discussed anywhere else.
Victor!
Isabella's scream pierced through the sudden chaos. Oh, God, Victor! His head cracked against the table's edge as he fell. Pain radiated through his skull. Real pain, because some things couldn't be faked. His body convulsed once, twice, then went terrifyingly still. Call an ambulance. Marco's voice boomed across the room.
Now.
Move. Victor's 3 senior captains, Marco, Dante, and Sal, surrounded him instantly. Isabella dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she touched his face. Her fingers were cold. Or maybe his skin was just warm. He couldn't tell anymore because the drug was working exactly as Dr. Petrov had promised it would. Baby, please. Please wake up, Isabella's voice cracked with panic. Her mascara was already running, black tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. She looked genuinely terrified. That's what made it so perfect. 48 hours ago, Victor had been in his study when he'd overheard a conversation he wasn't supposed to hear. Isabella had been in the garden, talking on her phone, and the window had been open just a crack. The words had drifted up to him like poison smoke. Soon, she'd whispered. Just a little longer. He suspects nothing. Victor had built an empire by trusting his instincts. And his instincts told him that after 23 years of marriage, his wife was planning something that would end with him in the ground. So he'd made a call to Dr. Petrov, a man who owed Victor his life 3 times over. Then he'd contacted his most trusted anesthesiologist, a woman who understood that loyalty to Victor meant her family stayed safe. Finally, he'd arranged this dinner. Intimate, casual, with just the right people present. Now, as his body lay motionless on the cold restaurant floor, Victor's mind remained crystal clear. He could hear everything, feel everything. He just couldn't move. His pulse is weak. One of the captains, Dante, by the sound of his voice, was checking Victor's neck. Jesus Christ, boss, stay with us. The paramedics arrived in 4 minutes. Victor knew because he counted every second. They burst through the private entrance, equipment clattering, radios crackling. Strong hands rolled him onto a stretcher. Someone cut open his shirt. Cold gel spread across his chest. Possible stroke or cardiac event, one paramedic announced. Unresponsive to stimuli. Pupils dilated. We need to move. Isabella climbed into the ambulance with him, still crying, still holding his hand. Victor felt the pressure of her fingers wrapped around his. Gentle, tender, the touch of a devoted wife. I love you, she whispered as the ambulance doors slammed shut. I love you so much. You have to fight. You have to come back to me. The siren wailed as they raced through the city streets. Victor stared at nothing, seeing everything. Isabella's face hovered above him, beautiful even in her distress. She'd always been beautiful. That's what had attracted him 25 years ago when she'd been a gallery owner and he'd been a young man taking over his father's organization. She'd seemed so different from the world he lived in.
Clean.
Innocent.
Real.
Maybe she had been once. Ma'am, please sit back, the paramedic said gently. Let us work. At Saints Memorial Hospital, Victor was rushed into the emergency wing. Doctors swarmed. Machines beeped. Lights blazed overhead as they wheeled him through corridor after corridor. Dr. Petrov was waiting, his face grave, playing his role perfectly. Get him to CT, Petrov ordered. I want full brain imaging.
Now.
The next 3 hours were a blur of tests, scans, and procedures. Victor lay perfectly still through all of it, his body limp, his mind racing. Isabella never left. She paced outside the CT room. She argued with nurses about visiting restrictions. She made phone calls with a trembling voice, telling people that Victor had collapsed, that it looked bad, that everyone should pray. Finally, as night fell over the city, Dr. Petrov emerged from his office with the verdict. Mrs. Moretti, his voice was heavy with practiced sorrow. I'm afraid the news is not good. Isabella's hand flew to her mouth.
No.
No, please. Your husband has suffered severe brain trauma. The scans show significant damage to multiple regions. He's in a deep coma. Petrov paused, letting the words sink in. I'm sorry, but we don't know if he'll ever wake up. Isabella collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Marco, who had followed the ambulance to the hospital, put a hand on her shoulder. Dante and Sal stood nearby, their faces grim. How long? Marco asked quietly. How long before you know?
Days.
Maybe weeks. Petrov shook his head. The brain is unpredictable. But given the extent of the damage, you should prepare yourselves. That night, they moved Victor to a private ICU room. The best money could buy, which was ironic, since Victor was paying to imprison himself. The room was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of machines and the soft hiss of the oxygen system. Isabella sat beside his bed for hours. She held his hand. She talked to him about their early days together, about their wedding, about the life they'd built. Her voice was soft and loving, exactly what a devoted wife's voice should sound like. Then, around midnight, she stood up. She walked to the door and checked the hallway. Empty. The night nurse had just made her rounds. Isabella returned to Victor's bedside. She leaned close to his ear, so close he could smell her perfume, the same scent she'd worn on their wedding day. When she spoke, her voice was completely different.
Cold. Flat.
Empty of all emotion. If you wake up, everything stays the same.
If you don't, she paused.
I deserve my life back. She kissed his forehead, a kiss as cold as her words, then walked out of the room. Victor lay in the darkness, listening to her heels click down the hallway until the sound faded completely. The test had begun, and Isabella had just failed. The machines beeped in steady rhythm. Each sound marked another second of Victor's imprisonment inside his own body. He'd been alone for 20 minutes since Isabella left. 20 minutes of staring at the ceiling, unable to blink, unable to move, his wife's words echoing in his mind like a death sentence. I deserve my life back. The door opened quietly. Victor's eyes, the only part of him that could still move naturally, shifted toward the sound. Dr. Petrov entered, checking the hallway before closing the door behind him. We're clear, Petrov said softly, approaching the bed. The nurse won't return for another 40 minutes. He pulled a small syringe from his pocket and injected it into Victor's foreline. Within seconds, warmth spread through Victor's veins. His fingers twitched. His jaw loosened. Slowly, Petrov warned. Don't try to sit up yet. The reversal agent needs time. Victor's mouth moved, his tongue feeling thick and clumsy.
How
long? The paralytic will wear off in stages. By tomorrow morning, you'll have enough control to fake the coma convincingly. The sedatives I'm administering are just saline and mild muscle relaxants, enough to keep you still when people are watching, but not enough to actually render you unconscious. Victor managed to turn his head slightly. She said it. I know. I heard. Petrov gestured to a small device hidden behind the monitor. Audio surveillance, as you requested. Everything in this room is being recorded and transmitted to a secure server. Your wife's words are already backed up in 3 separate locations. Play it back. Petrov hesitated. Victor, you should rest. Play it. The doctor tapped his phone. Isabella's voice filled the room, crystal clear and devastating. If you wake up, everything stays the same. If you don't, I deserve my life back. Victor closed his eyes, not from the drug, but from the weight of confirmation. He'd hoped, he'd actually hoped that his suspicions were wrong, that the overheard phone call had been about something else, that 23 years of marriage meant something. There's more, Petrov said quietly. She made a phone call from the parking garage before she left. The device I planted near your bed picked it up through her phone's speaker when she visited earlier. Show me. Petrov played the recording. This time, Isabella's voice was composed, businesslike. Marco, it's me. The doctors say it's bad. Brain trauma, deep coma, possibly permanent. A pause. Marco's voice responded, tinny through the phone speaker. How long before they know for sure? Days, maybe weeks. But Petrov says the damage is extensive. Another pause. The Empire will need steady hands, Marco. We can't let everything Victor built fall apart because of this. I understand. I'll call a meeting with the captains tomorrow. We'll start making arrangements. Quietly. Nothing official yet.
But yes.
We need to be prepared. Isabella? Marco's voice softened. Are you okay? I will be. I just need time. The recording ended. Victor's hands clenched into fists, the first real movement he'd managed since the collapse. That son of a bitch. I made him. I pulled him from running numbers on street corners and gave him everything. The question is what you want to do about it, Petrov said. I can keep you under for as long as you need. But Victor, this is dangerous. If Isabella or Marco suspects the coma is fake, they'll act immediately. And you'll be vulnerable. How long can we maintain the deception? Medically? Indefinitely. I control your records, your test results, everything. But the longer you stay under, the more authority they'll claim. Isabella is your legal spouse. Without a clear advance directive stating otherwise, she has the right to make decisions about your care and your assets if you're declared incompetent. Victor's mind raced despite the lingering effects of the drug. What assets can she access now? Personal accounts, shared properties, anything with her name attached. But the real empire, the businesses, the holdings, the network, that requires authorization from the captains. Marco would need their unanimous support to take over. He won't get it. Dante and Sal are loyal. Are they? Petrov's question hung in the air. Loyal to you, yes. But if they believe you're never waking up, loyalty becomes survival. They'll back whoever can protect their interests. Victor knew he was right. The organization didn't run on sentiment. It ran on power and stability. If he was gone, his men would follow the next strongest leader. And right now, that looked like Marco. I need eyes and ears, Victor said. Everything Isabella does, everyone she talks to. I need to know who's with her and who's waiting to see which way the wind blows. I have someone who can help. The night nurse, Elena Rodriguez. She's sharp, observant, and she's already noticed something. What do you mean? Your breathing changes when Isabella enters the room. Elena mentioned it to me an hour ago. She thinks you might have some level of awareness even in the coma. Victor felt a spike of alarm. That's a problem. Or an opportunity. Petrov leaned closer. Elena is good people. She immigrated from Colombia 5 years ago, works 3 jobs to support her family. She's not involved in your world, but she understands loyalty. And she understands that sometimes the right thing isn't the legal thing. You trust her? With my life. More importantly, I trust her to understand that if she helps us, her family's future is secured. If she betrays us, Petrov didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Bring her in, Victor said. But make sure she understands the stakes. Once she's in, there's no walking away. Petrov nodded and administered another injection. This will put you back under. By the time Elena starts her rounds, you'll be completely unresponsive again. Remember, shallow breaths, no reaction to stimuli, complete stillness. The drug took effect quickly. Victor felt his muscles relaxing, his control slipping away. But this time, he wasn't afraid. This time, he was hunting. Morning light filtered through the ICU blinds, but Victor had stopped counting hours. Time moved differently when you were supposedly unconscious. Each minute stretched into an eternity of waiting and listening. Isabella arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, carrying coffee and wearing a black dress that looked appropriately somber. She'd always had a talent for presentation, for knowing exactly what image to project. Good morning, my love, she said softly, settling into the chair beside his bed. Her hand found his, warm and gentle. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking you'd call, that this was all some terrible nightmare. She talked for 30 minutes about nothing important. The weather, the flowers people had sent, how worried everyone was. Her voice never wavered from that perfect tone of devoted concern. Then her phone buzzed. I should take this, she murmured, squeezing Victor's hand. I'll be right back. She stepped into the hallway, but she didn't go far. Through the partially open door, Victor could hear her clearly. Yes, I'm at the hospital. No change. Petrov says it could be days before we know anything definite. A pause. Tonight? I don't know if I should leave him. Yes, I understand it's important. 8 o'clock. I'll be there. She returned moments later, her expression troubled. That was Marco. He needs to discuss some business matters. I told him it could wait, but she sighed. Your empire doesn't stop just because you're in here. People still need leadership. Victor wanted to laugh. She was already positioning Marco's takeover as necessity, as responsibility. She'd always been clever. Around noon, Isabella left for lunch. She kissed Victor's forehead and promised to return within the hour. The moment her footsteps faded, Elena entered for her check. The nurse was younger than Victor expected, maybe 30, with kind eyes and careful hands. She went through her routine efficiently, checking vitals, adjusting 4 lines, making notes on her tablet. Then she did something unexpected. She walked to the door, closed it fully, and returned to Victor's bedside. Mr. Moretti, she said quietly, if you can hear me, I need you to know that Dr. Petrov told me everything. I understand what you're doing and why. I also understand that my silence has a price, and I'm willing to pay it by helping you. She paused, watching his face carefully. I'm going to ask you a simple question. If the answer is yes, try to blink once.
Can you do that? Victoresh mindrist.
This was the moment. Trust her, or keep pretending complete unconsciousness. But Petrov had vouched for her, and Victor's instincts said she was genuine. He blinked.
Once.
Deliberately. Elena's breath caught. Okay, good. Do you want me to help you monitor your wife? 1 blink. I'll do everything I can. Dr. Petrov gave me a recording device. Your wife doesn't know it, but when she's in this room, everything she says is captured. Elena adjusted his blanket, her movements natural in case anyone was watching through the door's window. She'll be back soon. I'll make myself scarce, but stay close enough to intervene if needed. She was turning to leave when the door opened. Isabella stood in the doorway, her eyes narrowing slightly. I thought you were at lunch. Just finishing my rounds, Mrs. Moretti, Elena said smoothly. Your husband's vitals are stable. No changes.
Good.
Thank you. Isabella's tone was polite but dismissive. She waited until Elena left before approaching the bed. For a long moment, Isabella just stared at Victor. Her expression was unreadable. Then she pulled out her phone and walked to the window, the farthest point from the bed. She thought she was being careful. She thought the distance and the low volume would keep her conversation private. She was wrong. The audio device Petrov had planted was military-grade, designed to pick up whispers from across a room. Marco, it's me, Isabella said quietly. I can't talk long. Yes, I'm alone. Listen, we need to move faster than planned.
I don't trust Petrov.
He's too loyal to Victor, and if there's any chance of recovery, he'll fight to keep Victor in control. Victor's pulse would have spiked if he'd allowed it. But he kept his body perfectly still, his breathing unchanged. How long before you can secure the captain's support? Isabella asked. Dante seems hesitant, but Sal is pragmatic. He'll follow strength. No, we can't wait weeks. Every day Victor stays in this coma, the organization becomes more unstable. People start making their own moves. She listened for a long moment. I know what we discussed, Marco. I know the timeline. But situations change. Her voice dropped even lower. If Victor wakes up, everything we've planned falls apart. We need contingencies. Real ones. Another pause. Tonight at 8. Your place. We'll finalize everything. She glanced back at Victor's motionless form. And Marco? Make sure we're not interrupted. What we need to discuss. It can't leave that room. She ended the call and returned to Victor's bedside. Her hand touched his face, gentle and loving. I'm doing this for us, she whispered. You built something beautiful, Victor. But empires need to evolve. You'd understand if you could hear me. You always understood necessity. She kissed his cheek and left. Victor lay in silence, his wife's words burning through him like acid. If Victor wakes up, everything we've planned falls apart.
Not when. If.
They weren't planning for his recovery. They were planning to make sure it never happened. The morning of day 3 brought unexpected visitors. Victor heard them before he saw them. Expensive shoes clicking against hospital tile, the rustle of papers, voices discussing legal terms. Isabella entered his room followed by 2 men in tailored suits carrying leather briefcases. These are the estate attorneys, Isabella explained to the nurse on duty, her voice heavy with reluctant responsibility. We need to discuss asset protection while Victor is incapacitated. Is it all right if we have privacy? The nurse nodded sympathetically and left. One attorney set up a laptop on the side table. The other pulled documents from his briefcase, spreading them across the empty bed beside Victor's. They spoke in hushed tones, as if Victor might somehow be disturbed by their plans to dismantle his empire. Mrs. Moretti, these are the emergency medical clauses your husband established in 2015, the first attorney explained. In the event of catastrophic injury or mental incapacity, certain powers transfer automatically to designated representatives. Your husband was very thorough in his planning. What powers exactly? Isabella asked. Temporary operational control of business entities, access to specific financial accounts, and decision-making authority for ongoing contracts. It's designed to prevent collapse during leadership transitions. Victor remembered signing those documents. He'd created them after a rival boss had a stroke and watched his organization tear itself apart within days. He'd thought he was being smart, protecting what he'd built. He'd never imagined his own wife would use them against him. How do we activate these clauses? Isabella's question was casual, but Victor could hear the hunger beneath it. Dr. Petrov must officially certify that you're unable to make decisions. Then you, as spouse and designated executor, can authorize temporary transfers. However, the attorney hesitated. Mrs. Moretti, these are meant to be short-term measures. If your husband's condition becomes permanent, more extensive legal proceedings would be required. I understand. But right now, the business needs stability. Victor would want that. Victor wants you to rot in hell, he thought savagely. They spent an hour reviewing documents. Isabella signed papers with smooth, practiced strokes. She asked intelligent questions about liability and oversight. She was methodical, careful, covering every angle. When the attorneys finally left, Isabella remained. She stood at the window, looking out at the city Victor had once controlled. You made it so easy, she said softly. All those safeguards you built, all that planning, it's all working exactly as designed. Just in the wrong direction. Her phone rang. She answered immediately. Yes. Good. Bring them to the estate. Not the main house. Use the guest villa. I'll meet you there in an hour, she paused. And make sure Dante and Sal are comfortable. We need them on our side. She left without another word. Elena arrived 20 minutes later with Victor's lunch tray, a cover for their actual conversation. Your wife went to your estate, Elena whispered, checking his phone. Dr. Petrov has someone watching. She's meeting with your captains there. Victor blinked once, his signal for understanding. There's something else. The night staff has been talking. Your wife had personal items removed from your house yesterday. Clothes, jewelry, documents. They were taken to Marco's apartment downtown. 2 blinks, his signal for alarm. Dr. Petrov said to tell you he's working on getting audio from the estate meeting, but it's difficult. The guest villa isn't wired for surveillance. Victor blinked once, then twice rapidly, their code for find another way.
Elena nodded.
I'll see what I can do. That evening, Dr. Petrov arrived with news, and a grim expression. "We got partial audio from the estate," he said, once they were alone and Victor had received the reversal agent. "It's not good." He played the recording. Static crackled, then voices emerged. "Appreciate you both coming," Isabella's voice. "I know this is difficult, but Victor would want us to be proactive. How long until we know if he's coming back?" Dante's gruff tone was unmistakable. "Dr. Petrov says the chances decrease significantly after the first week. We're already on day 3." Marco's voice was smooth, confident. "The question isn't whether Victor recovers. It's what we do to protect what he built while he can't." "That's not our decision to make," Sal interjected. "Victor has protocols. Chain of command."
Victor's protocole assumait temporary absence, note permanent incapacity Isabella Kunterd.
The business can't survive in limbo. Shipments are being delayed. Partners are asking questions. Our enemies are watching for weakness. "So, what are you proposing?"
Dante asked.
"Temporary operational control. Marco assumes Victor's role with oversight from both of you. All major decisions require unanimous agreement. Nothing permanent, nothing that can't be reversed when Victor recovers." Silence. Long enough that Victor imagined the looks being exchanged. "And if he doesn't recover?" Sal's question was pragmatic, not cruel. "Then we follow Victor's succession plans. But that's not a conversation for today." "I need time to think about this," Dante said. "Of course.
But Dante?
We don't have much time. The organization needs an answer within 48 hours, or our competitors will make the decision for us." The recording ended. Victor stared at the ceiling, his jaw tight. "They're splitting my empire before I'm even dead."
"Not all of them," Petrov said.
Dante sounds hesitant. And Sal's being careful. "They're being practical. In their position, I'd do the same." Victor's voice was bitter. "How long do I have before Isabella gets what she wants?" If Dante and Sal agree, she could have operational control by end of week. Once that happens, slowly removing you from the picture becomes much easier. Then we accelerate the timeline. "How quickly can you arrange for me to wake up?" "Medically? Tomorrow." "But Victor, if you wake up now, all you have is suspicion and a few recordings. That's not enough to prove betrayal. It's certainly not enough to justify action against your wife and your lieutenant."
Victor knew he was right.
In his world, suspicion meant nothing. Proof was everything. "Then we keep playing dead," Victor said. "But we get everything. Every conversation, every meeting, every signature. When I wake up, I want enough evidence to bury them all." Petrov nodded. "Elena's risking her life for this. I hope you remember that when this is over." "I remember everyone who helps me," Victor said quietly. "And everyone who doesn't." The hospital transformed after midnight. Fluorescent lights dimmed to a soft glow. The constant hum of daytime activity faded into occasional footsteps and distant machine beeps. This was Elena's domain, the quiet hours when the dying and the healing existed in the same suspended state. She'd been assigned to Victor's wing for 4 nights now, and each shift brought new risks. Tonight felt different. Heavier. Like the air before a thunderstorm. Elena checked her watch. 2:47 a.m. Isabella had left hours ago, but her presence still lingered like expensive perfume. The woman visited twice daily now, playing the devoted wife so convincingly that other nurses whispered about true love and tragedy. Elena knew better. She entered Victor's room silently, closing the door behind her. The recording device hidden behind the monitor's green light blinked steadily, active and capturing everything. "Mr. Moretti," she whispered, approaching his bed. "I need to check something." She'd noticed it the previous night, a pattern so subtle that anyone else would have missed it. Victor's breathing changed when stress entered the room. Not dramatically, but measurably. His heart rate elevated by exactly 3 beats per minute when Isabella spoke. His blood oxygen dipped slightly when Marco's name was mentioned. The body couldn't lie, even when the mind tried. Elena pulled out her tablet and began a standard neurological assessment, but her real focus was elsewhere. She needed to understand exactly how aware Victor was, how much control he maintained. I'm going to test your responses, she said softly. Nothing that will show up on official records. Just between us. She started with the basics. A light touch on his hand, no response. A gentle pressure on his fingernail bed, nothing. Textbook COMA presentation. Then she leaned close to his ear. Your wife was here earlier. She signed more papers. Blink once if you heard me. Victor's left eyelid twitched. Once. Deliberate. Elena's heart hammered, but her hands remained steady. She's meeting with Marco again tonight. 3 a.m. at his apartment. Blink once if you want me to find out what they're discussing. One blink. I'll need to leave the hospital. It's risky, but I have a friend who owes me a favor. He works building maintenance in Marco's complex. She paused. If I do this, if I go this far, there's no turning back for either of us. Blink twice if you understand the risk you're asking me to take. 2 slow, deliberate blinks.
Elena exhaled.
Okay, I'll do it. But Mr. Moretti, when this is over, I need your word that my family stays protected. My mother, my 2 sisters, they know nothing about this. Whatever happens, they stay innocent and safe. 1 blink.
Strong. Certain.
Thank you. Elena checked the hallway through the door's window. Empty. I'll be back before my shift ends. If anyone asks, you were stable all night. No visitors, no incidents. She was halfway to the door when Victor made a sound, barely audible, more breath than voice.
Elena froze.
Water. The sound came again, impossibly soft. She rushed back to his bedside. You can speak? Victor's mouth moved with obvious effort. Careful.
Marco.
Dangerous. I know. I'll be careful. She squeezed his hand gently. You just focus on staying still. Don't let anyone suspect. At 3:15 a.m., Elena stood in the service corridor of Marco's luxury apartment building, her nursing scrubs exchanged for street clothes, her hair hidden under a baseball cap. Her friend Carlos, a night maintenance worker, had positioned her in the utility room directly below Marco's penthouse apartment. The ventilation system runs through here, Carlos explained nervously. You can hear everything from the unit above. But, Elena, if you get caught, I won't. And you were never here. You're on your normal rounds. Carlos nodded and disappeared down the corridor. Elena pulled out her phone and activated the recording app. The ventilation duct carried voices with surprising clarity, muffled but comprehensible. Can't wait any longer, Isabella's voice, tense and urgent. Dante's asking too many questions. He wants to see Victor himself, verify the diagnosis. Then let him visit. Marco's reply was calm. Petrov will confirm everything. Victor's not waking up. You don't know that. What if? What if nothing? Isabella, we've been planning this for 18 months. Every contingency, every variable. Victor's coma was unexpected, yes, but it's actually better than our original timeline. Silence. Then Isabella spoke, her voice barely audible. What was the original timeline? Does it matter now? Marco, what was the original plan? A pause. Long enough that Elena almost thought the conversation had ended. 6 months from now.
A car accident.
Quick, clean, no suspicion. You'd inherit as the grieving widow. I'd assume control as the loyal lieutenant, and we'd merge our resources once the appropriate mourning period passed. Elena's hand trembled, nearly dropping the phone. You were going to kill him, Isabella whispered. You were actually going to kill him. We were going to free you, Marco corrected. Free both of us. You told me yourself. You've been trapped in this marriage for years. He's never loved you, not really. You're a possession to him, like his cars and his properties. That's not the same as murder, Marco, isn't it? How many people has Victor killed? How many lives has he destroyed building his empire? We'd be removing a criminal, Isabella. We'd be doing the world a favor. While taking everything he built.
Yes.
While taking everything. Because we deserve it. Because we earned it by living in his shadow. More silence. Elena's mind raced. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated murder, delayed only by Victor's convenient collapse. What about now? Isabella asked. He's already in a coma. Why not just let nature take its course? Because nature might wake him up. Petrov said there's a 15% chance of recovery in cases like this. That's 15% too high. So, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we remove the variable. Quietly. A complication during the night. A medication error. These things happen in hospitals, especially with coma patients. Elena's blood turned to ice. When? Isabella's voice was steady now.
Resolved.
Tomorrow night. Late shift, minimal staff. I have someone who can handle it. Petrov will never know, and even if he suspects, what can he prove? Victor's condition was already critical. And my role? Stay visible. Be the grieving wife. When it happens, you need to be somewhere public. An alibi that's unshakable. Tomorrow night, Isabella repeated. Day 5. Day 5. Then it's over. Then we're free. Elena heard movement. Footsteps. The sound of a door closing. The conversation had ended.
She ran.
Elena burst into Victor's room at 4:47 a.m., breathless and pale. Dr. Petrov was already there, administering the morning reversal agent. They're going to kill him, she gasped. Tonight. Marco has someone a medication error. They're planning it for tonight. Petrov's face went rigid. You're certain? I recorded everything. Elena pulled out her phone with shaking hands. They were going to kill him anyway. 6 months from now, a car accident. But now they can't wait. Victor's eyes flickered as the drug took effect. His fingers curled slowly. Play it. They listened to the entire recording. When it finished, the room fell into terrible silence. We need to move you, Petrov said.
Now.
Another hospital, another city. No, Victor's voice was rough but firm. Running proves nothing. They'll just follow and finish it somewhere else. Then what? Elena asked. We can't just wait for them to. We spring the trap early. Victor sat up slowly, muscles protesting after days of forced stillness. What's on my schedule today?
Petrov checked his tablet.
Isabella organized a prayer service. This morning at 10, at Our Lady of Sorrows. She's invited family, friends, business associates. She's calling it a vigil of hope, but everyone knows it's a memorial in everything but name. Victor's laugh was bitter. Perfect.
She's already mourning me.
Let's see how convincing she can be. What are you thinking? Petrov asked warily. I'm thinking it's time to give her exactly what she wants to see. A dying man slipping away. Then tonight, when her assassin comes, Victor's eyes hardened. We'll be ready. Our Lady of Sorrows was packed by 9:30. Isabella had spared no expense. White flowers covered every surface. Soft classical music played through hidden speakers. A large photograph of Victor, younger, smiling, from before the weight of empire had carved lines into his face, stood at the altar on an easel draped in black cloth. Elena watched from the back pew, her nurse's uniform replaced by a simple black dress. Petrov had insisted she attend, said they needed eyes on everyone present. Isabella arrived precisely at 10, dressed in elegant black, her face artfully composed in grief. She moved through the crowd accepting condolences, her performance flawless. Tears at the right moments. Brave smiles when people spoke of hope. The perfect widow in waiting. Marco stood near the entrance, greeting arrivals with somber nods. Dante and Sal flanked him, their faces appropriately grave. But Elena noticed how Marco's eyes tracked Isabella constantly, how his hand briefly touched her back when he thought no one was watching. The priest began with prayers for the sick and dying. Isabella approached the microphone, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice breaking beautifully. Victor would be. He'd be so touched by this outpouring of love. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but today, we have each other. We have our faith. We have hope. She spoke for 10 minutes about Victor's strength, his generosity, his love for family. She told stories about their early days together, their wedding, the life they'd built. Every word was true. Every word was a lie. Elena watched the crowd. Some wept openly. Others stood stoic, uncomfortable with public emotion. But several men in the back, Victor's enforcers, men she recognized from their brief hospital visits, watched with calculating eyes. They were measuring Isabella, judging her grief, deciding if she was worthy of their future loyalty. Victor taught me that empires are built on trust, Isabella continued. On knowing who stands beside you when everything crumbles. He trusted me with his heart, and I will not fail that trust, whether he wakes tomorrow or her voice broke convincingly. Or whether God has other plans. After the service, people gathered in the church hall. Elena moved through the crowd, listening. Such a tragedy, one woman murmured. They seemed so happy. I heard the doctors say it's hopeless, another whispered. Brain damage is too severe. She's just not ready to let go. Near the coffee station, Elena overheard something more interesting. Two men she didn't recognize, speaking in low tones. Marco's already making moves. Called a shipment route meeting for tomorrow. With Victor still alive. With Victor dying. That's the point. Nature of the business. It doesn't stop for sentiment. Dante won't like it. Dante will deal with it. What's he gonna do, wait forever? Isabella's already signed half the transfer papers. Elena drifted closer, pretending to examine the pastries. I heard she's moving into Marco's place next week, the first man continued. Not official, but the moving truck's already scheduled. Quick work. Smart work. Can't run an empire from separate houses. They need unified command. Elena's stomach turned. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. The whole organization could see the shift happening. She found Petrov near the exit and subtly signaled him. They stepped outside into the cold morning air. They're already treating her like Marco's wife, Elena whispered. The men inside, they're talking about them as a unit, not even mentioning Victor anymore. She's consolidating faster than we anticipated, Petrov checked his watch. We have 8 hours until tonight's shift change. That's when they'll make their move. Minimal staff, maximum chaos. What's the plan? Victor wants to catch them in the act. Proof they can't deny, witnesses they can't silence. Petrov's expression was grim. He's going to let them try. That's insane. If something goes wrong, if we don't get proof, they'll just try again. And again. Until they succeed, Petrov pulled out his phone. Victor's life has been one calculated risk after another. This is just one more. Inside the church, Isabella was saying her goodbyes, accepting final condolences. She caught Marco's eye across the room and gave the smallest nod. In 12 hours, they planned to make her a widow. They had no idea Victor would be watching. The day after the memorial service, Isabella didn't visit the hospital until noon. When she finally arrived, she looked tired, but not from grief. From something else. Something that made her movements slower, more careful, as if she were nursing a secret. Sorry I'm late, she told the day nurse. I had meetings all morning. Estate business. She sat with Victor for exactly 30 minutes, holding his hand, saying nothing of importance. Her mind was clearly elsewhere. When her phone buzzed, she checked it eagerly, then quickly composed her expression. I need to step out, she told no one in particular. I'll be back this evening. She wasn't. At 11:47 p.m., Elena's shift was halfway through when Petrov appeared with his tablet and a dark expression. We have a problem, he said quietly, showing her the screen. Isabella went to Marco's apartment 6 hours ago. She hasn't left. Maybe they're just planning. Listen. He played an audio file. The surveillance Petrov had arranged in Marco's apartment, unauthorized and highly illegal, had captured everything. The first sounds made Elena blush. Intimate sounds. The unmistakable rhythm of two people who'd clearly been together before. I don't need to hear, Elena started. Wait. Listen to what comes after. The sounds faded. Then voices, lazy and unguarded in the darkness. We should be more careful. Isabella's voice, drowsy with satisfaction. If anyone finds out before... Before what? Before Victor's dead. Marco laughed. Bella, in 24 hours, it won't matter. You'll be a widow. A few weeks of appropriate mourning, then we can stop pretending. It feels too fast. People will talk. People always talk. But money silences gossip quickly enough. Movement, sheets rustling. Besides, we've waited long enough. 2 years of sneaking around, of stolen moments. I'm tired of hiding what we have. 2 years, Isabella murmured. Feels longer. Feels like I've been trapped forever. Did you ever love him? Silence. Long enough that Elena thought Isabella might not answer. Once. Maybe. In the beginning, Isabella's voice was distant. He was different then. Or I was. But Victor doesn't love people, he collects them. I was another acquisition, another beautiful thing to display. You're more than that. You're brilliant. You built half his legitimate business portfolio. That he took credit for. That he controlled. Bitterness crept into her voice. Do you know what it's like to be Victor Moretti's wife? Everyone sees the luxury, the power. No one sees the cage. You'll never be caged again. After tomorrow night. Don't say it out loud. Fear entered her voice. What if something goes wrong? What if they trace it back to us? They won't. The person I hired is a professional. It'll look like a complication from the coma. Happens all the time, blood clots, medication interactions, respiratory failure. Petrov will never know it was helped along. Petrov suspects something. I see it in how he looks at me. Petrov can suspect all he wants. Without proof, he's just another doctor who couldn't save his patient. Marco's voice grew harder. Besides, once Victor's gone, and I have full control, Petrov becomes expendable too. He's too loyal to the old regime. Elena's blood ran cold. You'd kill him too, if necessary. This isn't a game, Bella. We're taking over an empire. That requires hard decisions. I know. Isabella's voice wavered. Sometimes I wonder if we're any better than Victor. If we're just replacing one monster with another. We're better because we're doing this together. Partners equals. Victor never gave you that a pause. Do you regret it? Any of it?
No.
No. I regret wasting 23 years on a man who never saw me as more than property. Her voice strengthened. I regret not doing this sooner. Tomorrow night it ends. Then we start building something new. Something ours. The audio cut off abruptly as clothing rustled and conversation shifted to other matters. Elena looked at Petrov, horrified. They're lovers. This whole time. For 2 years, apparently. Long enough to plan everything carefully. Petrov's jaw was tight. And now we know this isn't just about power or money. It's personal. Does Victor know?
Not yet.
He's been in the coma state all day, conserving strength for tonight. Petrov checked his watch. I'll tell him when I administer the evening reversal. But, Elena, this changes everything. This isn't just betrayal. This is a crime of passion wrapped in ambition. Those are the most dangerous kind. What about the threat against you? Expected.
I've known too much for too long.
After Victor, I'd be a loose end. He managed a grim smile. Good thing we're planning to disappoint them. Elena thought of her family, her mother, her sisters, safe in their small apartment across the city, unaware of the danger she'd walked into. When this is over, assuming we survive, you'll be compensated, relocated if necessary. Victor keeps his promises. Petrov squeezed her shoulder. But first, we have to survive tonight. They're coming at 2 a.m. during the shift change. That gives us a few hours to prepare. Prepare how? By making sure when they try to kill Victor Moretti, they get caught by every camera, microphone, and witness we can arrange. Petrov's expression turned cold. They want to play assassin? Let's give them an audience. The morning brought an unexpected development that derailed all of Petrov's careful preparations. At 8:15 a.m., Marco arrived at the hospital with 2 attorneys and a signed document from Isabella. He went directly to the hospital administrator's office, bypassing Victor's room entirely. Elena was changing shifts when the announcement came over the internal system. All staff assigned to ICU 7 report to nursing station immediately. The head nurse, Patricia, looked worried as she gathered everyone. There's been a change in Mr. Moretti's care protocols. Effective immediately. All visitors are restricted pending medical review. This includes family. What? Elena tried to keep her voice neutral. On whose authority? Mrs. Moretti and Mr. Moretti's medical proxy, Marco Castellano. They're concerned about infection risk given the extended coma state. Patricia handed out new assignment sheets. Elena, you're being reassigned to the surgical wing. But I've been his primary night nurse. Which is exactly why they want fresh eyes. No offense, but sometimes we get too close to long-term patients. Makes it harder to see deterioration objectively. Patricia's tone said the decision wasn't negotiable. Dr. Petrov has been consulted and agrees. Elena's stomach dropped. Petrov would never agree to this unless he'd been forced. She found him 30 minutes later in the staff break room, staring at cold coffee. They backed me into a corner, he said quietly. Marco came with legal documents, giving him medical decision-making authority. Said the family needed to ensure unbiased care. If I'd refused, they'd have had grounds to remove me entirely and bring in their own doctor. So what do we do? Tonight was supposed to be when they... I know. But they've changed the timeline. Petrov showed her a medical order on his tablet. This was issued an hour ago. Victor's being moved to a more specialized facility tomorrow morning. A private medical center in upstate New York that Marco's organization has connections with. Elena understood immediately. Once he's there, we lose all control. They can do anything.
Exactly.
The facility is legitimate, but it's also isolated. No witnesses, no oversight. If Victor dies there, it'll be ruled natural causes and no one will question it. Then we have to move him first. Tonight, before. Move him where? The moment Victor disappears from this hospital, Isabella can report him missing, claim kidnapping. We'd be fugitives, and Victor would still be vulnerable. Petrov rubbed his face. Marco's been planning this longer than we thought. Every move has a countermove. What about the recordings? The evidence. Inadmissible in court, obtained illegally. And in Victor's world, court isn't where justice happens anyway. He needs undeniable proof in front of witnesses who matter. His captains, his organization. Without that, even if Victor wakes up, it becomes his word against theirs. Elena paced the small room. So they've won. They've isolated him completely. Not completely, Petrov's eyes gleamed. They made one mistake. The isolation order restricts visitors and reassigns staff, but I'm still his doctor of record. I still have access. What good does that do? It means I can be there during the transfer tomorrow. And it means he lowered his voice. It means we move the timeline up. Tonight isn't when they attack. Tonight is when Victor wakes up.
What?
No, we're not ready. We don't have the proof. We have enough. The recordings, the financial transfers, the witnessed conspiracy. It's not perfect, but it's sufficient. And if we wait until they move him upstate, we have nothing. Elena's mind raced through the implications. Victor will be vulnerable. If he wakes up now, weakened from days of induced paralysis, he'll be vulnerable either way. But at least here, we control the environment. We have loyal staff, security we can trust. Petrov checked his watch. Isabella's meeting Marco in 3 hours at his apartment. The isolation order means she doesn't need to visit today. She's probably celebrating. How do we get Victor out? We don't. Not yet. Petrov pulled up a contact list on his phone. Victor has men, real loyalists, not the ones following Marco. They've been watching, waiting for a signal. Tonight, we give them that signal. And then Victor Moretti rises from the dead, and everyone who betrayed him learns what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. At 2 p.m., in Marco's luxury apartment, Isabella poured champagne. To freedom, she said, raising her glass. 24 hours from now, Victor's in upstate care, and the organization is ours. Marco clinked his glass against hers. To freedom, and to us. The isolation order was brilliant. Now even if Petrov suspects something, he can't interfere. No witnesses, no complications. Dante still has doubts, Marco said. But Sal's on board. 2 out of 3 captains is enough to claim legitimate succession. What about Dante? If he doesn't fall in line after Victor's transferred, we'll handle him. Accidents happen. Marco pulled Isabella close. This time tomorrow, you'll never have to pretend to be the grieving wife again. This time tomorrow, Isabella agreed. I'll finally be free. Neither of them noticed the small camera hidden in the bookshelf, installed by a maintenance worker who owed Victor Moretti everything. Neither of them knew that across the city, in a hospital room they thought was secured, Victor Moretti was opening his eyes for real. And he was done playing dead. Victor's body felt like it belonged to someone else. 8 days of forced stillness had atrophied muscles he'd spent a lifetime building. His hands shook as Petrov helped him sit upright in the hospital bed. Slowly, Petrov cautioned. Your body needs time too. I don't have time. Victor's voice was rough, damaged from disuse. What's the situation? Elena entered with clothing, a dark suit, perfectly pressed. Your men delivered this an hour ago. They're positioned around the hospital. 20 of them, your most loyal. Dante? Still uncertain. He visited the hospital this morning, but the isolation order kept him from your room. He left looking troubled. Elena helped Victor swing his legs over the bed edge. Sal's taken Marco's side completely. He called a meeting of the secondary captains for tonight, legitimizing the transition.
Victor stood, legs wobbling.
Pain shot through every joint. He forced himself to take a step, then another. Where's Isabella? At Goldstein and Associates. The law firm handling your estate. Petrov checked his phone. She's signing final documents right now. The ones that make everything permanent if you're declared legally incapacitated. How long until that declaration? The evaluation is scheduled for 4 p.m. today. 3 hours, Petrov's expression darkened. Marco arranged for an outside neurologist, someone with no connection to you. Once he reviews the fabricated test results and signs off, Isabella becomes executor of everything. Your business, your assets, your empire. Then we go to the law firm.
Now.
Victor, you can barely walk. You need time to. I need my wife to see my face when she signs away my life. Victor's eyes burned with cold fury. Get me in a car. We're ending this. Goldstein and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a steel and glass tower in the financial district. Isabella sat in the main conference room, surrounded by lawyers and documents that represented the dismantling of Victor Moretti's empire. This is the final authorization, Attorney Goldstein explained, sliding papers across the mahogany table. Your signature here grants full operational control to Mr. Castellano pending the 4 p.m. medical determination. Once Dr. Harmon confirms your husband's permanent incapacity, these become irrevocable. Isabella's pen hovered over the signature line. For just a moment, her hand trembled. Mrs. Moretti? Is something wrong?
No.
She steadied herself. I want to be certain this is what Victor would want. That I'm honoring his wishes. These protocols were established by your husband himself, Goldstein assured her. You're simply executing his own contingency plans. He built these safeguards specifically for this scenario. Of course, Isabella signed with a flourish. Victor was always prepared for everything. Almost everything. The voice came from the conference room doorway. Isabella's pen clattered to the table. The lawyers turned, confusion shifting to shock. Victor Moretti stood in the entrance, leaning heavily on Dr. Petrov's arm. His suit hung loose on his diminished frame. His face was pale, drawn, carved with 8 days of stillness. But his eyes were alive with terrible purpose. Victor, Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. You're awake. Disappointed. Victor moved into the room with agonizing slowness. Each step was calculated, controlled. You should see her face, Bella. Not quite the joy I'd expect from a loving wife. I don't understand. The doctors said what I told them to say. Victor reached the conference table, bracing himself against it. Every word, every test result, every hopeless prognosis, all carefully arranged. Goldstein stood, his professional composure cracking. Mr. Moretti, perhaps you should be in a hospital. I've been in a hospital for 8 days. Lying perfectly still. Listening to everything, Victor's gaze fixed on Isabella. Every phone call. Every whispered conversation. Every plan you made to bury me. The color drained from Isabella's face. Victor, whatever you think you heard. I think I heard my wife tell my lieutenant that she deserved her life back. I think I heard them discuss which method would be cleanest, car accident or medication error. I think I heard them fucking in his apartment while planning my murder. His voice remained eerily calm. Should I continue, or would you like to keep pretending? The conference room fell into suffocating silence. This is highly irregular, Goldstein stammered. Perhaps we should reschedule. We're not rescheduling. Victor pulled a small recording device from his pocket and placed it on the table. We're going to sit here, and you're going to listen to every conversation my wife had over the past 8 days. Then you're going to understand exactly what these documents represent. Victor, please. Isabella's composure shattered. Tears spilled down her face, real ones this time.
You don't understand.
You've never understood. I understand that you spent 2 years planning to kill me. I understand that you moved my assets, corrupted my lieutenant, and organized my funeral before I was dead. Victor pressed play on the recording device. Isabella's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. If Victor wakes up, everything we've planned falls apart. We need contingencies. Real ones. Then, Marco, I'm suggesting we remove the variable. A complication during the night. A medication error. Turn it off, Isabella whispered. Please, just turn it off.
Why?
Isn't this what you wanted? Freedom? Your life back. Victor's hand slammed on the table with surprising force.
Congratulations, Bella.
You're about to be very free indeed. He gestured to the doorway. 4 men entered. Victor's personal enforcers, the ones who'd protected him for decades. Mrs. Moretti won't be completing these signatures, Victor told Goldstein. In fact, Mrs. Moretti won't be making any decisions regarding my estate. Consider all previous authorizations revoked. Victor, you can't, Isabella started. Can't what? Protect myself from my would-be murderer? That's exactly what I can do. Victor straightened despite the pain. You wanted your freedom, Isabella. You're about to discover what freedom without my protection actually means. The law firm had erupted into chaos. Lawyers shouted about legality and procedure. Isabella had collapsed into her chair, tears streaming, her carefully constructed world disintegrating. But Victor had already left, his enforcers surrounding him as they exited the building. He'd made his point. Now came the dangerous part. Back to the hospital, Victor ordered as they helped him into the black SUV. We're not finished. Boss, you should rest, one of his men protested. You look like death. Good. Let them think I'm weak. Victor's mind was already 3 moves ahead. Isabella will call Marco the moment we're gone. They'll panic, try to cover their tracks, or run. We need to be ready for both. At the hospital, Victor returned to his ICU room, now a command center rather than a prison. Petrov was waiting with Elena and 3 more of Victor's trusted men. Marco knows, Petrov said immediately. Isabella called him from the law firm. Our surveillance caught everything. He's not running, he's consolidating. Called an emergency meeting with Sal and Dante in 2 hours at the old warehouse on Pier 47-inch. Dante's going? Victor asked sharply. Marco told him you'd suffered a mental break, that the coma damaged your judgment. He's positioning your awakening as proof you're unfit to lead. Victor's laugh was bitter. Brilliant. Turn my survival into evidence of my weakness. It might work, Elena said quietly. You've been unconscious for 8 days. The organization needs stability. If Marco convinces them you're compromised, then they'll side with him. I know. Victor eased himself onto the bed, every muscle screaming. Which is why we don't give them a choice. We give them proof they can't ignore. He turned to Petrov. The recordings, all of them. Isabella's confessions, Marco's murder plans, the affair. Can you compile them into a single file? Already done. But Victor, audio can be disputed, dismissed as fabricated. Not if it's presented correctly. Not if we have corroborating witnesses. Victor looked at Elena. You heard Isabella's admission about the affair. You were there when she discussed the timeline. I heard recordings, but I didn't witness anything directly. A decent lawyer would tear my testimony apart. Then we need someone who did witness directly. Victor pulled out a burner phone.
Get me Dante.
Alone. Before the meeting. Dante Caruso had served Victor for 32 years. He'd started as a driver and risen to captain through loyalty and ruthlessness in equal measure. Now he sat in Victor's hospital room, his weathered face unreadable. You look like shit, boss. 8 days in a coma will do that. Victor studied his old friend. Marco told you I'm compromised. Damaged. What do you think? I think you're sitting upright and talking, which is more than the doctors predicted. Dante's eyes narrowed. I also think there's a story here I'm not getting. The timing's too convenient. You collapse during dinner, wake up just as Isabella's signing away your empire. You always were the smart one. Victor gestured to Petrov. Play it. They played everything. Isabella's cold dismissal in the ICU. The phone calls to Marco. The affair. The murder plot. All of it, in her own voice, undeniable and damning. When it finished, Dante sat in silence for a long moment. 2 years, he finally said. They've been planning this for 2 years, and none of us saw it. They were careful. Patient. Victor's voice was heavy. I trained Marco myself. Taught him to think strategically, to plan ahead. Never imagined he'd use those skills against me. What about Sal? Sal's ambitious. He's backing Marco because he thinks it's the winning side. Once he sees the truth, he'll adjust. Sal's loyal to power, not people. And what truth is he going to see? That depends on you, Dante. Victor leaned forward despite the pain. Marco's calling this meeting to legitimize the transition. He's going to paint me as unstable, my awakening as proof of impairment. He'll ask for a vote, him or me. Sal will support him immediately, which means I'm the deciding vote.
Yes.
But more than that, I need you to do something that goes against every instinct. I need you to pretend to support Marco. Dante's expression hardened. You want me to betray you. I want you to be my witness. Marco thinks he's won. He'll be careless, confident. Men say things in victory they'd never say otherwise. I need you in that room, recording everything, watching his moves. Victor pulled out a small device, a recording button disguised as a shirt pin. Wear this. Get me everything said in that meeting. And when do I reveal the truth? When I walk into that warehouse myself. Victor's smile was cold. Marco wants to prove I'm compromised? Let him try. I'll show the entire organization exactly how sharp my mind really is. Dante took the recording device, turning it over in his scarred hands. This is a big risk, boss. If Marco suspects, if he searches me, then you disappear, and I lose my best captain. That's the gamble. Victor's voice softened. But I'm asking anyway.
Because I trust you, Dante.
After 32 years, you've earned that trust. Have I earned yours? The old captain stood, pinning the device inside his jacket. You pulled me off the streets when I was nothing. Gave me purpose, family, a life worth living. Whatever happens tonight, I'm with you. Always have been. Then let's end this. Victor struggled to his feet. One way or another, before morning. Everyone knows the truth. After Dante left, Elena approached Victor with medication. You need rest before tonight. Your body can barely function. My body can function long enough. Victor swallowed the pills. What I need is for everyone to see me strong, decisive, in control. The moment they sense weakness, I lose everything. You're human, Victor. You can't will yourself past physical limits. I've built an empire on doing exactly that. His eyes met hers. But you're right, I need help. When we go to that warehouse, I need to look like the Victor Moretti they remember. Can you make that happen?
Elena nodded slowly.
I can keep you upright and functional for a few hours. After that, your body will crash hard. A few hours is all I need. Victor looked out the window at the city he'd controlled for decades. By dawn, either I've reclaimed my empire, or I'm dead. But I won't die lying down pretending to be something I'm not. No, Elena agreed quietly. That's not how Victor Moretti goes out. The warehouse smelled of salt water and rust. Victor remembered buying this property 15 years ago, a front for legitimate shipping that occasionally handled less legitimate cargo. Now it would serve as the stage for his resurrection. He arrived at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the meeting Marco had scheduled. Elena had done her work well: stimulants to sharpen his mind, painkillers to mask the agony, and carefully applied makeup to hide the worst of his physical deterioration. He looked thinner, older, but not broken.
Not yet.
Positions, Victor ordered quietly. His 20 loyal men melted into the shadows of the warehouse's upper levels.
Armed.
Ready. Invisible. Petrov stood beside him, tablet in hand with all the recordings queued. If this goes wrong, then you run. Take Elena, disappear. I've arranged funds for both of you. Victor checked his watch. But it won't go wrong. Marco's arrogance is his weakness. He'll want to gloat, to explain how clever he's been. Men like him always do. And Isabella is already here. Victor gestured to the small office at the far end of the warehouse. Through the grimy window, Isabella's silhouette was visible, pacing. She arrived 20 minutes ago. Probably thinks Marco's going to protect. Victor stepped from the shadows into the warehouse's center, where a single overhead light created a pool of illumination. He moved carefully, using a cane, not to hide weakness, but to weaponize it. Let them see the cost of their betrayal. Marco's hand instinctively moved toward his jacket, toward the gun Victor knew he carried. I wouldn't, Victor said calmly. You're surrounded by 20 rifles, all pointed at your head. This ends with talking, not bullets. Boss, Sal stepped forward, his expression carefully neutral. We thought you were still in the hospital. The doctors said. The doctors said what I paid them to say. Every word, every test, every hopeless prognosis. All theater. Victor's gaze swept across them. I've been awake since day one. Listening. Watching. Learning who I could trust. Victor, if this is about Isabella, Marco started. This is about treason. About 2 years of planning my murder. About my wife and my lieutenant conspiring to destroy everything I built. Victor's voice remained eerily calm. But please, Marco, explain yourself. Tell me how I'm misunderstanding. You don't understand what it's been like, Isabella burst out. 23 years of living in your shadow. Of being your property, your trophy. So, you decided murder was the appropriate response? Victor's eyes fixed on her. Not divorce, not separation. Murder. You would never have let me go. You would have hunted me, punished me. So instead you planned to have me killed in a car accident 6 months from now. Very thoughtful, Victor turned to Marco. Or was the car accident your idea? Marco's jaw tightened. Victor, let's be reasonable. The organization needs leadership. You've been compromised. I've been testing you. All of you. Victor gestured to Dante. Play the recording from earlier tonight. Dante pulled out his phone. His own voice filled the warehouse, from the meeting before Victor arrived. Marco, are you sure about this? Victor's awake. He's got evidence. Evidence obtained illegally means nothing. And Victor's weak, damaged. Did you see him at the law firm? He could barely stand. We move forward as planned. And if he tries to reclaim control, then we remove him. Permanently this time. No comas, no second chances. Isabella will sign off. She's in too deep to back out now. Sal's face went pale. Marco, you said this meeting was about legitimate succession. It is, Marco snapped. Succession from a leader who's no longer fit. I'll decide who's fit. Victor's voice cracked like a whip. Dante, Sal, you both have a choice right now. Stand with a traitor who planned to murder me, or stand with the man who built everything you have. Dante moved immediately, positioning himself beside Victor. Always with you, boss. Sal hesitated, calculating odds and outcomes. Then slowly, deliberately, he stepped away from Marco. I backed the wrong side. My mistake. Marco laughed, a harsh, desperate sound. You think this changes anything? Victor, you're a relic. The organization has evolved beyond your old-fashioned way of doing things. We need modern leadership. We need loyalty. Victor cut him off. Everything else is negotiable. Loyalty isn't. Loyalty to what? To a man who treats his wife like property? Who rules through fear? Marco's composure cracked. I've given you 15 years of service, Victor. 15 years of bleeding for you, killing for you. And I gave you everything. Position, wealth, respect. I made you from nothing. Victor's cane tapped against the concrete. You repaid me by fucking my wife and plotting my murder. I repaid you by loving someone you never did.
Marcos shouted.
Isabella deserved better than you. We both did. Then you should have left. Built something of your own. Victor's voice dropped to something cold and final. Instead, you tried to take mine. Victor, please. Isabella stepped forward, tears streaming. I know what we did was wrong. But if you ever loved me, if any part of you remembers what we had, I remember everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment you smiled to my face while planning my death. Victor's expression was stone. What I feel about that isn't love, Isabella. It's clarity. He turned to his men in the shadows. Secure them. Separate rooms. No communication. As his enforcers emerged to grab Marco and Isabella, Victor addressed the captains. Tomorrow, we convene the full council. We present all evidence, the recordings, the financial transfers, the conspiracy. Let everyone see what betrayal looks like. And then, Sal asked quietly, and then I deliver judgment. The old courthouse had been abandoned for 12 years, since the city built its new judicial complex downtown. Victor had bought it through shell companies, keeping it maintained but empty, a monument to a system he'd never trusted to deliver real justice. Tonight, it would serve its purpose. By 3 a.m., the main courtroom was filled, not with lawyers and judges, but with Victor's entire organization. Every captain, every lieutenant, every man who mattered in the empire Victor had built over 4 decades. They sat in the gallery benches, silent and waiting. At the front, where the judge's bench once stood, Victor sat in a high-backed chair. He'd refused the wheelchair Elena had suggested. Refused the visible weakness. The stimulants were wearing off, pain radiating through every nerve, but he would not break.
Not now.
Dante and Sal flanked him. Dr. Petrov stood nearby with his tablet, ready to present evidence. Elena waited in the wings with medical supplies, just in case Victor's body finally gave up. 2 doors opened simultaneously. From the left, Marco entered, flanked by armed guards. He walked with his head high, defiant even in captivity. From the right, Isabella appeared, her elegant black dress now wrinkled, her makeup ruined by hours of crying. They were brought to the center of the room, standing before Victor like defendants before judgment.
This is insane, Marco said.
You can't just. Silence. Victor's voice carried through the courtroom. You'll speak when I allow it. Until then, you'll listen. He nodded to Petrov, who connected his tablet to a projector. The recordings began to play. Every phone call, every whispered conversation, every damning word that Isabella and Marco had spoken over 8 days, thinking Victor couldn't hear. The room listened in absolute silence. When Isabella's voice spoke those first cold words, if you wake up, everything stays the same. If you don't, I deserve my life back. Several men shifted uncomfortably. When Marco discussed the planned car accident, the murder disguised as medical complication, the calculated assassination of their boss, the atmosphere turned dangerous. When the recording played their conversation in Marco's apartment, the intimacy, the conspiracy, the casual discussion of killing not just Victor but Dr. Petrov too, men's hands moved toward weapons. The final recording was from the warehouse, just hours ago. Marco's own words condemning him. Then we remove him. Permanently this time. The projector went dark. Victor stood, using his cane for support. The room watched him, waiting. Marco Castellano. Victor's voice was steady despite the exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. You've served me for 15 years. I pulled you from running numbers on street corners. I taught you everything: strategy, leadership, loyalty. Or I tried to teach you loyalty. Victor, Marco started. I gave you power, wealth, respect. Made you a captain when others with more experience were passed over. I trusted you with my business, my secrets, my life. Victor paused. You repaid that trust by conspiring with my wife to murder me and steal everything I built. What did you expect? Marco's defiance flared. To serve you forever? To watch you hold all the power while we got scraps? Isabella, and I deserved more. You deserved what you earned. Nothing more. Victor turned to the assembled men. This organization exists because of loyalty. Remove that foundation, and everything collapses. Marco forgot that lesson. He chose ambition over honor, personal desire over duty. He faced Marco directly. Do you have anything to say in your defense?
Marco laughed bitterly.
Defense? This isn't a trial, Victor. This is revenge dressed up as justice. You're going to kill me regardless of what I say. You're right. I am. Victor's admission sent a ripple through the room. But not for revenge. For necessity. You're a cancer in this organization. Left alive, you'd try again. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but eventually. Men like you don't learn. They adapt. He nodded to Dante. Take him to the basement. Make it quick. Marco's composure finally shattered. Victor, wait.
Please.
I can fix this. I can make it right. You can't. That's the point. Victor watched as guards dragged Marco toward the back exit, his pleas echoing through the courthouse until a door slammed shut. Then there was only Isabella. She stood alone in the center of the room, small and trembling. The powerful woman who'd run art galleries and legitimate businesses, who'd managed half of Victor's public empire, reduced to this. Isabella Moretti. Victor's voice was quieter now, but no less firm. My wife of 23 years. The woman I trusted with my name, my home, my heart. Victor, I'm sorry, her voice broke. I know that means nothing now, but I am. I'm so sorry. For what? For the affair? For the betrayal? For planning my murder? Victor descended from the platform, approaching her slowly. Or are you sorry you got caught? For all of it. For not being brave enough to just leave. For letting Marco convince me that murder was the only option. Tears streamed down her face. I was wrong. About everything. You were. Victor stopped a few feet from her. You said you felt trapped. That I treated you like property. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'm not capable of the kind of love you wanted. But Isabella, I never would have killed you. If you'd asked for a divorce, for freedom, I would have let you go. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd let go of my possession. That's what you said, isn't it? That I collect beautiful things and never release them. Victor's expression was unreadable. So, you decided the only way out was through my death. Yes, the admission was barely a whisper. Then you chose wrong. Victor turned back to address the room. Isabella Moretti betrayed this organization. Conspired to murder its leader. Under normal circumstances, the penalty would be the same as Marco's. Isabella's face went white. But, Victor continued, she's also a civilian. Someone I brought into this world, not someone born to it. She doesn't understand our code, our rules. Killing her would make me no better than the man she accused me of being. He faced her directly. So, instead, I'm giving you exactly what you wanted. Your freedom. Complete and total. Isabella's confusion was evident. I don't understand. You have 24 hours to leave the country. You take nothing, no money, no jewelry, no assets. Only the clothes you're wearing. My lawyers will handle the divorce. You'll sign whatever they put in front of you. But how will I survive? Work. Struggle. Experience the life you would have had if you'd never met me. Victor's voice was ice. You'll have no protection, no privilege, no safety net. You wanted to be free of Victor Moretti? Congratulations. You're about to learn what that actually means. Victor, please. I'll die out there without. Perhaps. Or perhaps you'll discover you're stronger than you thought. Either way, it's no longer my concern. He gestured to his men. Escort her to the airport. Commercial flight. Economy class. Make sure she boards. As they led Isabella away, she looked back once. Did you ever love me? Even a little? Victor was silent for a long moment. I thought I did. 23 years ago, I thought I loved you enough to bring you into my world. That was my mistake, not yours. You were right about one thing, Isabella. You never belonged here. She was gone. The room remained silent as Victor slowly returned to his chair. His body was failing, the stimulants finally losing their battle against exhaustion and pain. But he couldn't show it.
Not yet.
Let this be a lesson, he addressed his assembled organization. Loyalty is everything. Betray it, and there's no mercy. But question me, challenge me, even disagree with me. Do it to my face, with honesty, and you'll always find me willing to listen. He looked at Dante and Sal. Tomorrow we rebuild. We identify every weak point Marco and Isabella exploited. We strengthen what they nearly destroyed. This organization will survive because we learn from this. And you, boss? Dante asked quietly. You need a hospital. Real rest. I need to know my empire is secure. Victor's vision was starting to blur. Is it? It is, Sal confirmed. Everyone here sees what happened.
Sees how you handled it.
You're stronger tonight than you were 8 days ago. Victor nodded, then finally allowed himself to slump slightly.
Elena.
She rushed forward with a wheelchair. Hospital.
Now.
No arguments. As they wheeled him out of the courthouse into the pre-dawn darkness, Victor looked up at the sky. The city was waking.
His city.
Still his. He'd survived betrayal, conspiracy, and near murder. He'd exposed his enemies and eliminated them. But the cost was visible in every line of his exhausted face, every tremor of his damaged body. Did we win? Elena asked quietly as the ambulance arrived. Victor thought of Marco, soon to be dead in the courthouse basement. Of Isabella, stripped of everything, sent into exile with nothing. Of the empire he'd reclaimed at tremendous cost. We survived, he said finally. In my world, that's the same thing. As the ambulance doors closed and they rushed back towards Saint's Memorial, Victor closed his eyes. Not in defeat, but in recognition of a simple truth. He'd tested everyone around him and learned a terrible lesson. Trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. Love was a weakness that had nearly destroyed him. From now on, Victor Moretti would rule alone. Respected, feared, obeyed. But never again vulnerable. Never again betrayed. The empire was his once more. And this time, he would never let his guard down. The end.